And they're over there.
Thank you very much, Rivington. And Crepo already condemning CLG to second place in tomorrow's matchup. I don't know about that one, my friend. I don't know about that one. But 3-1 for CLG. They managed to lock it up in the scoreline that you predicted, Jet.
I actually did predict the 3-1.
You did. You got that. You were unaware of that until, I guess, just now.
No, I was aware of it. I just don't want to take credit for the 5,000 gold comeback in game 3. Like, knew it the whole time. 3-1.
Absolutely. No, MC, I think that's kind of one of the major things that we'll be able to hit on here in this post game is that this wasn't necessarily the easiest ride for CLG through the semifinals. That game, however, game 4 felt a lot better from that North American squad.
Yeah, it felt better towards the end of the game, but it still didn't start very pretty. In fact, actually going to take a look at the top lane quickly because Darshan overextended like back-to-back games in what were weird matchups, and he was looking very, very aggressive, wanted to punish a younger player in MMD, but wasn't able to really capitalize on it that much. And once again, CLG, like that is an alarm bell. Like if you get pretty much mirror results out of an early game like that due to your top laner going a little bit too ham, it's not a great feeling.
Yeah, and Karsa capitalizing on it again. I mean, if we have to point out a player, and we've already done it a few times, but 4 Flash Wolves that really showed up in today's semifinals, and it's the person we said needed to show up. It was Karsa.
He did for like the first 15 minutes of the game.
Right.
Then he had some really poor team fight and positioning decisions later on. So like he was able to capitalize on Darshan being in some really bad positions. But overall, like I love the way CLG came together as a team and showed it to look like Flash Wolves was a bunch of individuals.
Yeah, I think Flash Wolves, there's just a lot of things that they have to improve on. I don't think they have a really cohesive composition. They've only looked good on like a Ryze, Kindred, and Ezreal, but once that was taken away, they don't have a second unit that can go up against these international teams that have a lot of stuff in their bags. And I just hope that we get more competition in the LMS, and I'm happy to see them at least making semis.
They stepped up and performed here on the international level. They have an entire summer split to go back and figure out some of those issues. Now, in the latest fight for the finals, we have to look at one player in specific, the man who led CLG to a victory. Aphromoo had a huge day, setting up his team for victory and claiming our player of the series honors.
And I said it during the final game, he actually might be the best player in North America right now because Aphromoo has shown against world-class opponents like Wolf, Mata, and now Sword Art that he is just all class when it comes to every stage of the game.
Yeah, and Aphromoo is actually dictating the meta as we come towards MSI, right? Like, it's not the Trundle, Alistar, Braum triumvirate that we thought it was going to be coming in. Look at the champions who play this series, right? Like Bard, Soda, Janna.
With Soraka
was banned with plenty of Bard bans. So really interested to see how that matchup goes against SKT's bottom lane tomorrow. Xmithy was also a tremendous performer as well, but you just got to take your hat off to Aphromoo with the series he had.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. I know that you sing high praises for Xmithy now, and as the gentleman over there mentioned, he should not be overlooked in this scenario, but specifically in today's games, being able to pull out that Sona and make some very clutch plays to turn around a 5K deficit at 20 minutes. That's why it's got to go to Aphromoo.
Yeah, exactly. But Xmithy in that game, to me, just showed exactly what you can do as a cerebral jungler. Like, he shows up in the right lanes, pressures situations. Sure, some of the skill shots might miss, but his general mindset behind the game is perfect right now and just lends to that team mentality.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get back to this in just a minute, but right now we've got Shock standing by with a few members of our newest MSI finalists. So let's head downstairs for a word.
Thank you very much, Dash, player of the series, Aphromoo, and Xmithy as well, who was very close to being players of the series. Aphromoo, I've been talking to you a lot throughout this, so I just want to go to you first. First feelings after getting to the finals here at MSI and beating the Flash Wolves.
I'm not that excited. It was a good series, I would say, but we got to play SKT tomorrow, so I'm just in that mode still until after the finals. But I'm happy that we get to meet SKT in the finals. First time for CLG, I would say, in never. And yeah.
Hey, you have beat them before, Xmithy. Do you have more of a kind of relief feeling that with all this, you have put on a great performance already, even though you have that hard competitor tomorrow? Reaching the semifinals is a fantastic, fantastic performance on its own. The finals, excuse me.
Yeah, we're definitely looking into SKT for tomorrow. They've been playing really, really well, actually. They beat RNG in a really dominating fashion. But I think if we just play as a team, like, we're still maybe way better than them.
All right, we got to talk a little bit about the series. I mean, it's been a whole theme throughout MSI, the supports, the range supports, and then you pull out the Sona of all champions, do it again. Talk to me about the reasoning behind it, because it seemed to work well enough to do it twice.
Well, Soraka and Bard were banned that series, and Sword Art wanted to play Karma in the latter half of the series. So after our second game on Janna, wasn't really a good blind pick that game, and then he started picking Karma after, so I needed to come up with a counter pick. And Sona was it, since Sona brings Engage. Didn't really want to play Braum. I didn't really think it was good into their comps since they play like more pokey stuff, and Braum usually gets shut down by that, even though he can block some of it. But Sona has sustain, and I thought that Sona, even though she's not really a popular pick, still has the engage for later on in the game, and especially when teams pick Kindred, you can just one-shot her off of that.
Well, it's the first time we'd seen it from you since Spring Playoffs 2013, so it was definitely a surprise for the Flash Wolves as well. Talk to me through the feeling throughout the series, because you guys dropped Game 2 and then came into Game 4 maybe a little overconfident at times. What was the general feeling of what you guys should have done a bit better?
In the continuing games after like Game 1, I don't think it was overconfidence that made us play like that. I think we just came like, I guess, underprepared on the early game. We didn't really, or I mostly didn't really predict where their jungler was, or didn't really talk about it. So that's how Karsa really got an advantage early game. And thankfully my team, like, we try to play together, and usually advantage don't really show if you're playing like a 5v5 team fight and like everyone's like equal.
In the end, you guys did it. Let's talk about the momentum surrounding the tournament. In the first interviews, it was all about showing that NA is a good region, getting that #1 seed, and that is all already delivered now. You guys have put on the best performance of an NA team at a Riot International event since the beginning of time, and all you have to do is beat SKT, Aframu. I know you're very realistic into going into that one, but how big is the hunger? Imagine if you could just stand over there and lift that trophy and take it back home.
Well, I don't think too far into the future like that. Maybe in the game when I plan stuff out, but playing against SKT is a feat in and of itself. And since SKT, two-time world champion, coming into MSI, they lost last time at MSI, I'm pretty sure they're going to be super hungry to get this win under their belt, and it just so happens that CLG is going to be the one to trump them.
All right. Well, earlier we talked to Koma, and I asked him the question, and I said that your motto was have respect for your enemies, don't fear them. He said, well, tomorrow I will let them have fear and experience fear throughout their entire mind and body. So SKT is ready to fight you guys as well. Final thoughts on what you've shown here already and what you're going to show tomorrow, Smithy?
Well, yeah, we already played them. Haven't really...
You won? Once?
Yeah, we played them twice, so like they don't really instill fear on us, since like I don't think the way they play is really aggressive. And we also have the better team fighting and rotation. So.
All right, we will see what happens. Anything final before the final to say to your fans and the new CLG fans, undoubtedly, that you've gained as well?
Hopefully you guys enjoyed that series. Appreciate anyone who supports us, and we're here to look even better in the finals.
Looking forward to it. We will see what happens. They are not overconfident at all going into the finals, but they're going to give us a good show. Guys, take it away. CLG versus SKT tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Shocks. A lot of confidence coming out of those two gentlemen looking ahead to tomorrow's series against SKT.
And I agree with one part of what they were saying, and that is actually their team fight decisiveness, in my opinion at least, is a little bit better. I mean, we saw some flanks where they were just able to like pull the button and go straight away, and we saw there in the group stage when SKT weren't playing good League of Legends, that caught them off guard a little bit. Do I think that is enough to win them the series? Definitely not. Like, please do not quote me on that. But they should be confident in how they play out team fights, because they're a well-oiled machine.
And I love the confidence, right? So much of these series and best of fives do come down to your mentality before the series and also during the series. Like, we saw RNG get systematically destroyed in that series. And then when CLG dropped a game to Flash Wolves, they were able to bounce back. And I think it's because they have that deep-rooted confidence that they're going to be able to win. Because we do the analysis, we know the history of SKT. SKT's a huge favorite.
Right.
But you're not going to come into it and be like, yeah, they're better than us. No one's going to say that if you have the attitude.
Well, you shouldn't. Yeah, you shouldn't be walking in saying that. That's for sure. Clement, thoughts on what Aframu and Smithy were throwing out there during the interview in terms of looking ahead to tomorrow?
I just hope tomorrow they give us some good games and the crowd isn't as silent as it was on the first day of semifinals. Like, it was a church, a library. At least this time make it like a night market or something. Give us some good plays, some throwdowns here and there.
Some really loud night markets. It depends. Is there music playing is there, Ben?
Yeah, exactly. Some salsa dancing in the street while some crazy man is yelling at you on the sidewalk. Anyway, we'll see how the
No 3-0, please.
Counter Logic Gaming fares against reigning world champions SKT when they go head-to-head in the 2016 MSI Finals. Now, remember, this is the 2nd seed versus the 4th seed here. So we've got a lot to break down, and we've already touched a little bit. Spawn, you know, you think that maybe CLG has SKT in one area, but in all others, SKT would probably largely be considered the favorite in this matchup, even though they're coming in as a 4th seed.
The biggest thing about SKT is you give them a 5,000 gold advantage at any stage of the game, they will win the game. Like, they are very good at systematically shutting you out. And I think that's actually what frustrated a young RNG lineup as the series progressed, is that they just couldn't get their foot back in, whereas Flash Wolves gave a couple of opportunities for that today. So I think that what Xmithy was talking about is actually really important. Go away, look at jungle pathing. Like, you have to be able to counter gank very effectively against this SKT lineup.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see what the side selection is going to be coming into this game, because CLG's picked blue side for every game and SKT's picked red side for every game. But at the same time, now that you've had the ability to scout a few of their pick bans from there, do you want to switch it up? CLG's shown they play a lot of different champions.
Yeah, and of course we have to remind everybody that because CLG is the 2nd seed, they will be getting the priority in side selection on games 1, 3, and 5, SKT on games 2 and 4. And interestingly enough, the 2 teams that have gotten here, one is the team that chose blue on their 3 sides, and SKT, the team that chose red. So I'm also with you in curiosity in terms of Faker. Does he want those counter picks? How will he use them against Huhi? Now, having had that information, will CLG be comfortable blind picking into the likes of Faker, of all people? Clement, thoughts there?
Is there actually a counter pick for Ryze? Because I haven't really seen it yet. Like, it's just first pick Ryze and, like, win the series.
Well, that goes back to your point. Ryze is a priority in this series against
It was a
Huhi.
priority, and I think it's Huhi's best champion. I think SKT will leave it open and give it a crack. I reckon we're going to see a Cassiopeia into Ryze matchup tomorrow, and I think the Faker, if he is in anywhere near form that he was, because he took down Xiao, who in my opinion is one of the up-and-coming mid laners in the world, he's going to look to break down Huhi quite extensively in that mid lane.
At the very least, I do think CLG's maybe even going to pick red side for like their 3rd game, just to make sure they get a chance. In case Faker is just overpowering with his counter picks. Like, I think you have to give him that much of respect, not fear, but respect, that he's going to have one of those lined up. And I do think they'll give a shot for a first pick Ryze and get something better on the back rotation.
All right, well, there you have it there. Want to look at a few other things. The support pool. We have the Sona Bard and the Soraka, as well as Janna, right? These 4 range supports that Aframu has shown he's now willing to play. The big difference for me, though, is the fact that SKT has shown success on Soraka, whereas Flash Wolves did not today. And so perhaps SKT willing to take that away with a little bit more confidence than Flash Wolves was.
And let's get one thing straight. It didn't suit Sorta because he has to be the member going forward. That's why he looked better on the Karma. However, Wolf is all about kiting backwards and saving his AD carry. So I think that it is a much better pick for SKT than it was for Flash Wolves. And CLG will afford it respect because Afro thinks it's the best support in the game.
And SKT was able to pick Soraka and still have really good initiation in fights because they control vision so well, and Bang is such a better Sivir than NL is. Right? Like, I think you can get range support plus Sivir, still force fights, and I think it just works a lot better for SKT for those reasons.
I think if Flash Wolves just, if like SKT gets the Flash Wolves comp they got today, they probably win.
All right,
yeah, they play those a lot better.
Now let's zone in on some matchups. When we've spoken about the Huhi Faker matchup, that one's out of the way. Let's look at Darshan versus Duke, because I know we had some questions around Darshan's play today. Seemed a little off kilter in a few different areas. So thoughts there, how he might match up against the likes of Duke?
For me, I think Duke plays the lane a little bit better, but his teleport has some hesitations. We've seen it around Baron plays. He comes in 1 or 2 seconds late. He's not really like the Marin guy who's calling the shots. He's maybe listening to the shots a little bit more. I think Darshan actually showed a little bit sharper if he survives the lane.
Yeah, that's a big thing to me.
Nailed it.
I don't know whether the laning phase is survivable, though, because Duke is really good with the lead, and it's something that he was able to get, in my opinion, against much better laners than Darshan in the LCK finals. So that's just something that you have to really worry about. I mean, he was going toe-to-toe with Looper as well yesterday, who's no slouch. So I think that's another area they're going to look at because it's exploitable.
Exactly, because we have to keep in mind Darshan is playing his way into this meta.
Right.
He's picked up later than anyone else did, and I'm very impressed that he's been able to get to this point, but I agree, his laning phase isn't perfect yet, and Duke's is much closer to perfection, so it's going to be tough.
Well, then, Jat, talk to me about some of the players that might influence the top lane in Xmithy versus Blank. We have called out Blank for being a weak weakness in this tournament for SKT, whereas Xmithie becoming a rising star, at least within the context of CLG as a team.
Yeah, that's the one place where you have to hope to get Blank a little bit on tilt, right? He's had some great games, and he's had some pretty poor games, and they've shied away from the Nidalee, whereas Xmithie was able to pick it early there. So if CLG is going to tilt that matchup in their favor, maybe they actually prioritize Nidalee right there and try and get ahead of Blank so they can control the river and control the mid and top lane.
All right, well, there's the early game pressure perhaps coming out of the jungle for them. Then, of course, we look at the bottom lane. Stixxay has been a solid performer for CLG this tournament. A lot of the pro players themselves are saying he's the best AD carry here. Afromu, we're singing his praises as well. However, if Wolf plays like he did in the semifinals, where he significantly stepped up from the group stages, that could be a very even lane.
Yeah, but I think you have to consider the mentality about the two teams when they think about the bot lane. For CLG, they want to win the bot lane. They pick to win the bot lane. But when we were talking to Bang, he says that we pick for the comp. The bot lane, if we lose it, it's okay. And I think one thing that SKT's bot lane does better than anyone else's is they can carry a lot of pressure on their shoulders. They just don't fold to the weight. They keep their turret there and they keep on pushing.
But one thing to look at there is that they also play for team fights a lot on CLG's lineup. I mean, I would say that RNG is a team that plays to win bottom lane, because if they don't, then it's a failure, whereas Stixxay and Afro still come out even and are able to team fight well. They're not going to overreach in the same fashion that RNG did, because that gave SKT a huge way into every single game. I mean, they were camping out that lane and like punishing the over-aggressive picks of Mata. So I think that, you know, Stixxay and Afro, this is one of the lanes that they'll be happy to go even with, especially if they get something like a Janna Caitlyn again and they're able to take over late game team fighting.
So either way, I just want to clarify, you guys are cool if I classify this as a David and Goliath story.
I thought you had something else lined up.
Yeah,
it wasn't David and Goliath. Cinderella versus the Terminator?
Yeah, Cinderella versus the Terminator.
I think is what you wanted to call it. Why'd you back down at the last second?
Because, you know, I felt like the reference would fall on.
You saw Terminator Genesis at the hotel room on HBO.
That's what it was.
This movie was terrible. I'm not making that reference
anymore. Yeah, exactly.
anymore.
No, I lost all faith in that franchise.
To go back to your original question, yes, I am very glad
you very much,
to do that.
All right,
that is the matchup. You're correct.
Yes, the odds may be stacked against CLG tomorrow, but that title fight will be coming your way tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. local time. That's 7:30 a.m. for those of you in Central Europe, and 10:30 p.m. Saturday night for those folks in Pacific Daylight Time. That's going to do it for us tonight. We'll see you all back here tomorrow for another day, the final day of MSI 2016. Thank you and good night.